In the beginning, every musician has their Genesis moment. For you, it might have been the Sex Pistols or Madonna or Public Enemy. It's whatever initially inspires you to action. Mine was 1956, Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show. Remember, it wasn't just the way Elvis looked, it was the way he moved that made people crazy, pissed off, driven to screaming ecstasy and profane revulsion. That was television. When they made an attempt to censor him from the waist down, it was because of what you could see happening in his pants. So, 1 week later, inspired by the passion in Elvis's pants, my little 6-year-old fingers wrapped themselves around a guitar neck for the first time, rented from Mike Deal's Music in Freehold, New Jersey. They just wouldn't fit. Failure with a capital F. So I just beat on it and beat on it and beat on it in front of the mirror, of course. I still do that. Shh. Don't you? Come on. You got to check your moves. Then, into my 13-year-old ears came 60s pop. Roy Orbison. Besides Johnny Cash, he was the other man in black. He was the true master of the romantic apocalypse you dreaded and knew was coming after the first night you whispered, "I love you" to your new girlfriend. You were going down. Roy was the coolest uncool loser you'd ever seen. With his Coke bottle black glasses, his 3-octave range, he seemed to take joy sticking his knife deep into the hot belly of your teenage insecurities. Simply the titles, Crying, It's Over, Running Scared. That's right, the paranoia. Oh, the paranoia. He sang about the tragic unknowability of women. He was tortured by soft skin, Angora sweaters, beauty and death, just like you. But he also sang that he'd been risen to the heights of near unexpressible bliss by these same very things that tortured him. Oh, cruel irony. And for those few moments, he told you that the wreckage and the ruin and the heartbreak was all worth it. I got it, my young songwriter's wisdom said to me. Life is tragedy, broken by moments of unworldly bliss that make that tragedy bearable. I was half right. That wasn't life, that was pop music. But at 24, who knew the difference? So I was on my way. And then for me, it was the Animals. For some, they were just another one of the really good beat groups that came out of the 60s. But to me, the Animals were a revelation. We got to get out of this place. It had that great bass riff, you know, it had that and that was just the clock, man, the clock marking time, you know. In this dirty old part of the city where the sun refused to shine, people tell me there ain't no sense in trying. My little girl, you're so young and pretty. One thing I know is true, you'll be dead before your time is due. This I know. See my daddy in bed and dying. See his hair turning gray. He's been working and slaving his life away. Yes, I know it's been work every day, just work every day. It's been work, 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 work. We gotta get out of this place. If it's the last thing we have to do, we gotta get out of this place. Girl, there's a better life for me and you. Yes, I know it's true. That's every song I've ever written. That's all of them. I'm not kidding either. That's Born to Run, Born in the USA. Everything I've done for the past 40 years, including all the new ones, you know. But that struck me so deep. It was the first time I felt I heard something come across the radio that mirrored my home life, my childhood. And the other thing that was great about the Animals was there were no good-looking members. There were none. They were considered to be one of the ugliest groups in all of rock and roll. And that was good. That was good for me because I considered myself hideous at the time. Badlands, Prove It All Night, the darkness was filled with the Animals. You know, I took youngsters. Watch this one. All right, I took. I'm gonna tell you how it's done right now. I took Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. It's the same fucking riff, man. Listen up, youngsters. This is how successful theft is accomplished. All right? I was signed as an acoustic singer-songwriter, but I was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Signed by John Hammond at Columbia Records, along with Elliot Murphy, John Prine, Loudon Wainwright III. We were all new Dylans. The old Dylan was only 30. So I don't even know why they needed a fucking new Dylan. All right? I had a great thing with James Brown. I went to see James Brown one night, and he kind of knew me. I was sitting in the audience, and suddenly I heard, "Ladies and gentlemen, Magic Johnson," and Magic Johnson was on stage. And "Ladies and gentlemen, Woody Harrelson," and he was on stage. And then I'm sitting in my seat watching, and I hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Born in the USA," you know. And I realized he didn't know my name, but he knew. So I ran my ass up there as fast as I could. He's Elvis. He's Elvis. You know, he's Dylan. And then Dylan, from whom I first heard a version of the place that I lived that felt unvarnished and real to me. If you were young in the 60s and 50s, everything felt false everywhere you turned, but you didn't know how to say it. There was no language for it at the time. It just felt fucked up, you know. But you didn't have the words. Bob came along and gave us those words, you know. He gave us those songs, you know. And the first thing he asked you was, "How does it feel, man? How does it feel? You know, to be on your own?" And if you were a kid in 1965, you were on your own because your parents, God bless them, they could not understand the incredible changes that were taking place. You were on your own, you know, without a home. He gave us the words to understand our hearts, you know. He didn't treat you like a child. He treated you like an adult. He stood back and he took in the stakes that we were playing for. He laid them out in front of you. I never forgot it. And Bob is the father of my musical country now and forever. And I thank him, you know. But I wanted to grow up. You know, I wanted to twist the form I loved into something that could address my adult concerns, and so I found my way to country music. I remember sitting in my little apartment playing Hank Williams' greatest hits over and over. In country music, I found the adult blues, the working men's and women's stories I'd been searching for, the grim recognition of the chips that were laid down against you. My bucket's got a hole in it. I'll never get out of this world alive. Lost highway. If rock and roll was a 7-day weekend, country was Saturday night hell raising, followed by heavy Sunday morning coming down. Guilt, guilt, guilt. I fucked up. Oh my God. You know, but as the song says, would you take another chance on me? That was country. Country seemed not to question why. It seemed like it was about doing, then dying, screwing, then crying, boozing, then trying, you know. And as Jerry Lee Lewis, the living, breathing personification of both rock and country, said, I've fallen to the bottom and I'm working my way down, you know. So that was hardcore working man's blues. Hardcore. Loved it. But I wanted an answer to Hank Williams' question. Why does my bucket have a hole in it? Why? So along with our fun and the bar band raucousness, the E Street Band carried a search for identity and became a central part of my music. You know? And I covered a lot of ground, but there was still something missing. So somewhere in my late 20s, I picked up Joe Klein's Woody Guthrie of Life. And as I read that book, World of Possibilities, that predated Dylan's, that had inspired him and led to some of his greatest work, opened up for me. Why do we continue to talk about Woody so many years on? Never had a hit, never went platinum, never played in an arena, never has a picture on the cover of Rolling Stone, you know? But he's a ghost in the machine, big, big ghost in the machine. And I believe it's because Woody's songs, his body of work, tried to answer Hank Williams' question, why your bucket has a hole in it. And that's a question that's eaten at me also for a long time. So